Well, you can see how popular you are within the Googlers. So I wanted to welcome Anna Ivanovic, to Google, to the Googleplex. We're so excited that you're here visiting today, that you're here for Bank of the West. So hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Sullivan, one of the old-time Googlers here. Also the, quote-unquote, the executive champion of the tennis team, the Google tennis team, which has won the league the last couple of years. So yay to us. We've got a lot of strong players here at Google. Anna is a former world number one, now in your 11th year on the pro circuit, ranked 11th in the world currently, has won an impressive 14 WTA single titles in your career, including one Grand Slam title as the 2008 French Open singles champion. She became a UNICEF National Ambassador for Serbia in 2007, named one of the 30 Legends of Women's Tennis, Past, Present, and Future by Time magazine in June 2011. And as far as I know, does not sleep in a hyperbaric chamber like Novak Djokovic. You know, that's true. When I was coming over here, my group was asking if you sleep in that oxygen chamber like Djokovic. I said, no, just because they're from the same country does not mean they all do that. And no, they are not dating. They all want to know, like, do they know? No, separate person. She's incredible, and we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And in true Google fashion, we'd like to have a Googler, an avid tennis player and coach himself, Jonas, who's hit 10 years now at Google, conduct an informal interview today just so we can get to know Anna a bit more. So really limited on time, so we're going to keep questions going for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and then open it up to the audience. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for coming. We had a little bit of a chat outside. I tried to prep you for the room a little bit, and so I'm a tennis player, but I think we have a lot of tennis players at Google in general. People are really excited about the sport. So just so that we know who we're talking to, who's a tennis player in the audience, real quick?
Oh my God.
So you have 200 tennis players right here. Cool. Who's a fan of Anna's?
Now you put them on the spot.
I know, but how could they say no? How could they say no? So I think we're all really excited to have you, and so you've had a really, really good year, I think, last year. And I was wondering if we could maybe talk a little bit about that. So what happened this year compared to the last few years that you played that gave you 2 titles? I think you beat Serena at the Aussie Open, and you did a few other things. So what changed?
First of all, it's my pleasure to be here. I've been to Stanford a couple of times, and it's exciting to see a little bit different side of the city and to see something else than a tennis court. I think this season has been great for me. I actually have 3 titles and making quarterfinal of Australian Open, beating Serena, and I think in not only in sport but in life in general, you go through ups and downs and you learn. And I started this very young, and as Stacey mentioned, I've been on tour for 11 years. It makes me feel really old, even though I'm not that old. But you have through the different experiences, and this year has been good, and I'm really enjoying competing and going through the challenges.
So did you change anything in terms of how you practice, or did you tweak any of your strokes, or fitness stuff, or did anything make a difference in your game?
Everything a little bit, but it's mostly also in the mindset. When your mind is set, and when you have certain goals, and you work towards something, and you have a big picture, it makes it so much easier. You have a purpose, and every day you try to improve, and you try to learn, and try to get better.
Okay. And so you have a new coach. It was just in the news. We had a chat earlier too. So welcome. So when you pick a new coach, what are you looking for? What's important to you in your game?
Can you please?
I warned him. I think we're okay.
Well, I think it's very important to understand each other and to communicate well, because tennis is such a specific sport. Because it's individual sport, you spend so much time with the person, and you really need to get along. But also, the coach needs to understand the way your game develops and the way your game should be, because every player is different, and I think it's very important to find someone who's going to motivate you, inspire you, and support you. I think the support is very important, because people see us competing, and on court we're on our own, but there is so much more to it behind the court and behind the scene, and all the hard work, it's actually done off the match court.
Right. Yeah, I watched you guys practice a little bit yesterday, and so I see a lot of laughter on court. Is that always? So you missed the box, but I'm not going to talk about it. But today you made it. Okay. So they were trying to like toss tennis balls into a box, and mixed results. So how important is that to also have a lot of fun? There's a lot of you have pressure, there's media, there's these things, and so what does humor and fun have to do with it?
I think it's very important, because like I said, we do this for so long and we travel and it's not easy, we are always on the road, not with friends or family, and it's very important to have that, laughter and joke and understand each other, because, there is time to be serious, but there is also time to be relaxed and fun, and we try to play jokes on each other and try to make it more fun for everyone.
Okay. And then Stacey just mentioned, so you're playing tomorrow, Bank of the West tournament just across the street. So how do your days before the tournament usually look like? So how do you organize your days? How much do you still practice? Do you still tweak little things here and there, or?
Well, it really depends where in the season we are, and this is the first tournament after the break. So I had a fair bit of practice lately. This morning I practiced only once, and normally I do that, do some recovery, and then basically relax and read, and then have an easy dinner later on, and just try to rest and be fresh for tomorrow. But in a lead up, I had a little bit more of work and a lot of gym.
Right. And then do you still, when the tournament is coming up, do you still tweak little things here and there? Would you work on, I don't know, footwork stuff, or maybe change a little bit of the strokes, or is it really more about finding rhythm and just getting used to the conditions?
Of course, finding rhythm it's a priority, but we will always work on a few little specific things. That maybe one day you don't feel so good. Whether it's a volley or a return or a serve or something that will tweak a little bit and also adjust to depending on the opponent you play.
Okay. So some people in the audience know I lost my topspin backhand a little bit. And,
that happened to me too.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that. We can look for it together. So what do you do in that case? So if you feel you lose confidence a little bit in the stroke, how do you get it back?
It's hard because actually it's all in the mind, but mind can be such a tricky thing, and I think it's very important to just go back to the basics, and trying to move your feet, because once you're nervous or you think you lost a shot, the first thing that stops is the feet, and then you're not in a position to hit better. So then you get back to that first moment. So it's very important to try and get that flow happening, and also try to let go even if you miss a few, and try to get that out and then sort of start from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. So we have in the audience today obviously a lot of tennis players. There's a former touring pro, and we have some younger folks. I know you started around when you were 5 and you played a lot. What advice do you have for younger players who would want to come up and maybe give it a shot to become a professional tennis player? Is there a most important thing that you would
I think
tell them?
it's a few things that have to come together, but I think the most important is if they believe they have a shot, to really commit to it, because there is no doing it halfway, They really have to embrace the competition and enjoy it as well, and try to be passionate about it, and like I said, before, you have to wake up with a purpose and think, this is what I want to do and what I want to achieve, and only then you're honest to yourself and you say, okay, I gave it the best shot, and I think tennis is such a fun game, and every point is different. And I think that's something that I enjoy doing. And if they want to pursue it and they enjoy it, I think they should go for it.
When you were growing up, I assume you played a lot, you drove a lot. It wasn't that your parents say, Anna, you need to play more, we want you to be a professional tennis player. Where did that motivation come from?
Yeah, it was a very specific situation, because I wanted to play tennis, and I watched it on TV, and I was very stubborn since I was very young, so I was like, I want to play. So for 5th birthday, it was my present, and that's how I started. No one in my family ever played tennis before, and they still don't. But which is a good thing, I guess. And my brother always jokes that I played with everyone but never with him, which is kind of true and sad at the same time. But but I had full support from my family, and I must say, you know, in tennis we have lots of crazy parents, and I'm very proud that my parents are not one of those. So
we used to joke about that at home too. So they're you know, sometimes more ambitious and intense than the kids themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, that kids sort of realize that that's their dream if they want to pursue it, and not that they're doing it for the parents, because sooner or later that's going to wear out, and then they're going to be stuck, you know, somewhere in between. And so I was very fortunate.
So I was in the same situation, but I didn't make it on tour. But you know, Google is not bad either.
Beautiful.
And so we were just talking. You actually were just asking me outside, you know, what we're doing here and everything. And so in general, we're a lot about data, technology, gadgets. There's a lot of sensors coming on the market. And one thing that I'm interested in is, how has technology changed the game for you? So, you know, you've been on tour for 10, 11 years. Do you feel an impact of technology at all? Maybe, I don't know. So we all know Hawkeye, you know, rackets, replays, stats. Is there anything that really changed for you?
Definitely. I think that technology changed the game so much. Basically, from the first time I played on tour and to this moment, I feel with better strings, better rackets, I feel there is much more players who can produce sort of power if they are, you know, they're not a powerful player, and then it helped to sort of even the game a little bit, so the talent is not as vital as it was before, because now you can compensate. You know, if you're not a big hitter, you can get looser strings, or you know, if you hit flat, you can get strings with more, that gives you more spin. So in that sense, it changed tennis a lot, and it did get faster and stronger. They try to slow the chords down, so they still make it more fun for I guess audience, and also for us a little bit harder. But yeah, it did change a lot, and obviously Hawkeye, it's a big part too.
Right. Do you feel the game is getting more and more similar between the different surfaces? Is that
well, the movement, it's a lot different. You know, when you change surfaces, that's sort of the first thing you want to work on. But the game itself, still on clay, you can use more spin, and grass courts, it's a little bit faster and flatter and lower. So you can see the difference from surface to surface, but it definitely got a lot more powerful.
Yeah. So I have to ask you one gear question as a tennis player, and you know, so we have a lot of people in the audience who always try new rackets and, you know, change weight balance and all that stuff. How much has your racket string setup changed over the years? Have you found your perfect setup? Minimal? So you're still pretty much what you had? Okay.
Changing rackets and strings, it's like a little bit changing technique, you know, because obviously technology is improving and you have a little tweaks here and there, and I've been very fortunate to be playing with Yonex for now 5 years, 6 years, so they do improve, and it's always similar balance to the one I'm used to, so there is not that much of a difference, which is important, because you find something that is good, and to get used to something completely different, it takes a long time.
Okay, cool. So I'm sure we have a room full of questions here.
And I don't have a question, but I think it's a nice thing to welcome you. Dobrodošli u Google.
Oh, hvala vam puno. Hvala. Very nice.
Thanks again for coming. I was just wondering, during the first few games of any match, how do you try to dictate the pace and style of the match, and sort of to suit your game of play? What are some things that you do?
Well, this is something that I've been talking to my coach a lot about, you know, this week, and just starting the matches, because you know, it really depends what kind of form I feel, and if I feel the ball really good, I will start very aggressive. Sometimes I will start a little bit tentative, but we spoke about this, that it's important in these first few games to sort of impose your game, and to try to still swing through and get that rhythm, because, you know, the opponent will feel more pressure, and then sort of set the tone for the match. So it's very important to let go in the first few games, and try to go for it with, you know, exaggerated movement and footwork.
Hi, Anna. When you prepare for matches, do you look at a lot of data about your opponent?
That's the job the coach normally does. Yeah, so if you have any research, you can give it to him. No, but I think it's very important because even though we played against each other, few times, and we know a lot of players, still it depends what kind of form they are. It depends on the surface as well. So coach does the research, and then we speak about tactics before the match.
When you were number one, did you notice a big change in how you were perceived by the public, by the media, by your sponsors, by everyone? And was that like a big change from like being number one versus number two, let's say, or lower?
Yeah, it was, and when I became number one, I was only 20 at the time, and it was because I was very shy as a kid, so it kind of was a big shock for me, and I didn't really know how to handle that spotlight because all of a sudden there was so much attention, and it brought a lot of pressures, a lot of expectations, and up to that point, I didn't have any of that, so to get used to that, it took some time, and then, yeah, like I said, I was only 20 years old, so also very young and immature, so since then I think I changed a lot, and yeah, I got some more experience in that area too.
Does it ever happen when you're playing a game that at some point you just feel like it's just not working out and then you give up, or is it the coach who's constantly telling you?
I blame the coach. No, yeah, definitely. You go through during the match. You sort of experience many different, emotions and feelings, and I never give up. But sometimes you get really frustrated, and then you want it even more, and the more you want it, the further it gets from you, and so it's like catch-22. So it's just very important to try and stay in the moment.
Sort of a twofold question, but one, as you ascend the rankings again, have you changed anything in your style? You mentioned your racket and the strings have basically stayed the same. And two, there's been a lot of talk about the gluten-free diet, and I think you tried it at one point in time. What were the things that you learned from that experience that worked, and some things that may have not have worked? But I'm curious if you changed how you eat to prepare, now you've been on tour for a long time, and two, if you're changing your strategy to a certain extent to deal with today's power tennis.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, to perform on such a high level, you actually have to tweak everything. You can't let anything, let it hang in the air. You have to sort of prepare yourself and do the fitness, do the tennis, and also nutrition. It's such a big part of it because, like I said, the tennis has developed so much. It's so much stronger and faster. So recovery, it's very important, and nutrition, it's a big part of it. So I do take, for example, like isotonic, something that will help me stay hydrated during my matches. Use gels for energy and so on. I do try still to eat gluten-free, and if I have opportunities, so I eat a lot of rice, and protein is very important. I do like meat and eat a lot of meat and fish and all kinds of proteins, but yeah, I try to stay off the dairy so much, so try to load the carb load the day before I play, and then like I said, before my matches also try to eat light, but still some carbs that will give me energy for the match.
Do you find that over the years, like, do you come to a period where you just feel burned out, or do you feel like every time you play, you're just like happy to play and glad to play and
Well, there is definitely times where I wish I was on holidays, and I don't want to be on court. But I think it's normal. I'm sure not every day you look forward to the day in the office, or everyone goes through these phases, and we do compete a lot and we travel a lot. So it's very stressful on the body, on mind, and all the pressures that come along, and other activities we have to do. So it's very important to find this balance between working hard, competing, and then also resting, and that's why we have to make smart schedules and give body and mind a rest, and even when sometimes beginning of the year I was 4 months on a road, and it's very hard, you don't see your family, friends, and it's a constant competition and pressure. So whenever I have a day or two off, I really try to do something different, to engage in sightseeing, just to get your mind off tennis, and that's little tricks that we try to do, and so we can stay motivated on court.
What's one lesson or one thing you've learned throughout your 11 years on tour that's really helped you throughout the 11 years to stay playing for 11 years? Well,
when I was about 11 or 12 years old, my coach at the time in Serbia told me it has to be hard on practice court, so it's easier during the matches, and it stayed with me, and it's so true, because you really have to work so much harder off the court, so then when you play matches, it's just piece of cake.
All right, nice. Thanks, guys. So we have a little present for Anna, and Irina is going to come and get that out. And also wanted to say super, super big thanks to Tracy, Irina, and Stacy today for all their work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That's very nice.
And then you get some more practice,
tossing
tossing
the
ball
ball.
practice.
Okay.
So anywhere you like. So we have some signed balls.
Okay, you want to
from
catch
Anna.
it?
All right. Nice. Oh! All right.
Okay, I'll go further.
Go further.
Ooh.
All right, and the
That
last
was a
one.
quick hand.
And the last one. Oh, no.
And we wish you good luck tomorrow
Thank you
in
so
the match.
much.
All right, well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for having me.